The new generation Lexus RX has luxury in abundance, and it's also got an abundance of models to choose from. So which one should you pick if you're looking at this car? Stay tuned and I'll tell you what I reckon. G'day, I'm Matt. This channel is called The Right Car, where I help you find the right car for your needs. Is this going to be the right luxury SUV for you? Well, if you're after one of those non-German luxury SUVs, it could be. But I'm going to tell you all about it and its best competitors in this review. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. Let's get to it. The Lexus RX lineup consists of 14 different variations, which seems ridiculous if you ask me, and none of them are 7-seaters this time around either. They're all 5-seaters, and to me that seems like too much choice. But look, choice is good. Choice is a luxury, right? So that makes a lot of sense, but I'm not going to go through the details of all of the different variations and permutations because honestly it'd take an hour. So I'm going to tell you about two that I reckon are the picks of the range. This one is one of them. It's the RX 350h Luxury with the enhancement pack, and it's just under $100,000, which seems like a lot of money, but you get a lot of stuff. Included in that enhancement pack, you get cooled front seats, you get a panoramic sunroof that builds on top of the 14-inch touchscreen media system and heated front seats and leather trim, although leather is part of the option pack, so there's a fake leather on the lower grade versions. Look, I reckon it is a fantastic option, and at that $100,000 price point or just under, it seems to make a lot of sense. But if you have a bit more money and you want the most flagshipy version of this car, then you need to buy the Lexus RX 500h F Sport. F Sport signifies that it's a sportier version of the car. It's got bigger wheels, it looks sportier, and it has that 500h powertrain, which is sportier. It's got a lot more grunt. Check out Car Expert's review of the 500h if you're curious about that car, because I reckon they did a really good job of summing it up nicely. Now, what about the alternatives to this? So you're looking at a luxury SUV and you've got around 100 grand to spend, maybe a little bit more. Which should you pick? There are so many choices out there, and it'd be easy to recommend something like an Audi Q7 or Audi Q5, or a Mercedes GLC or GLE, or a BMW X3 or X4, which I don't really like the look of. But let me tell you, I reckon there's some alternatives out there that you might also want to be looking at. One of them is the Volkswagen Touareg. It's a more serious four-wheel drive style SUV than some of the other ones out there. Has diesel power available, a plug-in hybrid coming as well, so it could be the right model for you if you're after something that isn't necessarily from a luxury brand, but is a luxury SUV. Another option you should be looking at if you are looking at something that isn't one of those German brands is the Genesis GV80. Now, it is plush, premium, and looks a lot like a Bentley. And that's the thing that you will be asked a lot. Is that a Bentley? No, it's a Genesis, and that's a Korean brand. It's one of Hyundai's offshoots, and it's a really, really good car. And finally, how about Scandinavia? Let's talk about the Volvo XC60. Well, in fact, they're all built in China these days, but they are still very, very good. Prices have gone up quite a bit, so they don't necessarily offer as much value as they once did. But you can get a bunch of different options and different spec grades. All of them are mild hybrid, unless you buy the top spec one, which is a plug-in hybrid. So, a few good options there. None of them are the German ones. The Lexus RX new generation model is quite big. It's more than 4.9 meters in length. So I don't think Lexus has actually made that good use of the amount of space that this car takes up in terms of the footprint. Look how much of it is focused on just having a swoopy looking back end. And to me, that's a bit weird. I also think the design is a bit weird, but you can make up your own mind on that. All right, let's check out the boot space and see if it's big enough. So, the boot of the Lexus RX is decent. It's not necessarily as big as you might expect it to be from the size of this car. 612 litres of cargo capacity is what Lexus says is available in here. And look, it is a bit of a strange shape because it's got such a scoop at the back of this car that, well, you can't really load lots of tall items in like you can in some other SUVs. So just keep that in mind. In terms of spare wheels, some versions come with a tyre repair kit. This one is one of those. Some of them do come with a space saver spare. So it really depends on what you are prioritizing as to which version you should choose when it comes to a spare. I'm hearing a lot of people complaining about spare tyres these days. So yeah, maybe all that rain and all those potholes has played into people's minds. To me, the interior of this new RX model is a mix of, well, kind of boring design, but also some really nice high-tech elements to a degree. So you've got this big 14-inch touchscreen media system that's standard across the entire range. It's a wow factor moment for the cabin, because there aren't many others. Look, it is a little bit difficult to get your head around when it comes to the menus upon menus that you have to interact with. It does have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sat Nav, and you also do your climate controls and fan controls through the bottom part of the screen. That's a bit that stays like a home screen at the bottom there as well. So it's a bit of an interesting element to the cabin. Another interesting element is the driver info screen. It's a bit small. Modern cars often have much bigger digital screens that are fully digital. You know, like in $35,000 cars these days, you get better screens than is on offer here. There's another element in front of the driver which I find annoying. It's this driver monitoring camera system. It'll beep or warn you every time you sort of glance away from the road ahead of you. So even if you're doing something on the screen while you're driving, it'll beep and warn you that you know, not paying attention to what's going on in front of you. It's very annoying, and I've found it to be one of the most annoying elements of the drive experience in this car. Now, as I was saying, this spec is not necessarily the flashiest one, so it doesn't feel overly flashy in here, and it does feel, well, honestly, yeah, just a little bit bland by modern standards. Maybe that's the buyer for this car, though. Sorry if I offended you by saying that. It's just not very wantable or lovable, I would say, in terms of the design. It's just predictable and a little bit boring. So when it comes to the storage, got a couple of cup holders here. They have this handy little thing so you can adjust the height of the cup. So you push this little button and it raises up. So that's good. There's a little storage section under here as well with a wireless phone charger. That's where your USB ports are. There's two there, another two above, little storage tray above that as well. And you've got this center covered console bin, which flips that way or that way, depending on who's accessing it. So that's nice. There's bottle holders in the doors. The seats are pretty comfy. They're heated and cooled in this spec, which is nice to see. So at least it does the luxury elements quite nicely. And as I mentioned, this grade also gets the big panoramic roof. I've got it closed at the moment, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's open. And then we'll jump in the back seat. Ooh. The backseat space on offer in the RX, well, this is where it starts to make a bit of sense. So this seat is set for me at 182 centimeters or 6 foot. Look at that. Heaps and heaps of knee room, a fair amount of foot room, although if you do stretch your feet out, the toe room's a little bit tight. Shoulder room and the width of this back seat is really, really good. So if you are someone who is going to be ferrying people around, look, I've seen a few of these cars already with a taxi bar on top of them. So that might be a really good option for you. But then again, I probably wouldn't want to be buying a $100,000 car that taxi drivers are driving, but that's just me. All right, so the amenities, you've got a couple of mat pockets on the seat backs. You've got directional air vents. You've got climate control in this grade as well for the back row, and a couple of USB-C ports too. Bottle holders in the doors. You've got a flip down armrest here with a storage section, but also a pair of pop-up cup holders there as well. And if you have children, you'll be happy to know there are ISOFIX points and 3 top tethers as well. So it will make a very accommodating family car. Now, when it comes to the doors, I forgot to mention it in the front, but they have kind of interesting door handles. So you just press this little button here, and if that doesn't work for whatever reason, you can just pull the lever instead. So yeah, kind of interesting. One thing that's missing though, if you are a family car buyer, there's no shades on the windows, which you might expect when you're paying this kind of money, but at least it's got very dark tint on the back windows. Yeah, so for a backseat experience, it makes a lot of sense. The entry-level version of the Lexus RX range is a 2.5 litre petrol-electric hybrid powertrain. And if that sounds familiar to you, well, Toyota and Lexus are buddies after all. It's a fantastic engine. That's this one here. It has pretty good power and torque outputs, although Lexus, just like Toyota, doesn't say a combined torque output, but the power output is really good. There's the choice of front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and it comes with a CVT automatic transmission. Above that is the RX 350 grade. Now, 350 used to stand for V6 power, but you don't get a V6 anymore. It's a 2.4 litre turbocharged petrol engine with all-wheel drive as standard and an 8-speed automatic. Yeah, it's going to suit a lot of people who maybe aren't so sold on the whole hybrid thing. And then above that is that 500H powertrain. It takes a 2.4 litre turbo petrol engine, teams it with battery and electric motors and all-wheel drive for quite a lot of grunt, as you'll see on your screen now. That is a fantastic sounding engine. I haven't driven it. I would really like to because it seems like it's a really good option. So, which one would you pick? The drive experience of the Lexus RX is nice. It's just very livable. I guess that's one of the things about this car. Generally, over the generations of RX, it's always been pretty, well, just livable. Not necessarily pushing the boundaries in any particular way in terms of dynamics or handling or acceleration or anything like that. It's leaving that job to the other brands out there who might be more interested in staking a claim for a specific type of drive experience. But I think that the RX basically does exactly what it should do when it comes to the drive experience because, well, it's appealing to a certain type of buyer and someone who isn't necessarily as interested in having the most dynamic or sporty or whatever kind of SUV. It's going to appeal to that person. It's very easy to live with. And let's talk about the elements of the drive experience that make it easy to live with. Firstly, I think that the engine and transmission in this hybrid version is extremely livable. It does dip in and out of EV mode or petrol mode or both, depending on what sort of situation you're in when you're driving. And at times there is just a little bit of noise from the engine as it kicks in, but otherwise, as you can probably hear, it's a pretty serene and silent experience. But maybe as we just approach this corner and I give it a bit of acceleration, the engine will kick in, but even so, it's not noisy. See? It's not too loud at all. The other element of the drive experience that I think makes it very easy to live with is, well, the way that it's been set up from a chassis perspective. It's got very nice steering, it's very predictable and easy and nicely weighted, which means that it's super easy to live with around town, even though it is quite a big car and it can be a bit hard to see out of at times when you're parking, for instance. But otherwise, I think it does have a pretty good steering feel and response to it. And then there's the ride comfort, which for the most part is pretty good. It can be just a little bit pitter-pattery at times over repetitive small bumps, but I think it deals pretty well with the bigger bumps on the road surface. And I've done a whole heap of highway driving in this car as well, and I've been impressed with the way that it handles itself on the open road and around town. So from the drive experience perspective, it makes a lot of sense. And look, I've driven F-Sport versions of Lexus RX models before, and they don't necessarily change the game when it comes to sportiness, but it will be a bit of a more sporty drive experience if that's what you're after. Rightio, so the 350H hybrid model is the most efficient version of the Lexus RX. You'll see the official combined cycle figure for both the front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive versions of this car on your screen now. And look, I haven't necessarily seen figures quite that low in my real world testing, where I've been driving it how you might drive it around town, doing a bit of urban running, some highway driving, a little bit of open road sort of country stuff as well. But yeah, here's what I've seen on your screen now. That's respectable, I would say. Definitely better than you might expect for a vehicle this big. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Next up is the 350 version of this car, which has the highest official combined cycle figure. That version is obviously not hybrid, so it has a turbo petrol engine, and yeah, you do pay a bit of a price when it comes to fuel consumption there. And then there's the 500H, which is a hybrid, but uses the turbocharger to its advantage to make it a bit more sporty to drive. And look, the official number for it isn't too bad either. I can't say whether that's achievable in the real world though, because I haven't driven that one. I will tell you this though, all versions of the Lexus RX require 95 RON premium unleaded petrol, so just factor that into your ownership costs. It's speaking of, we'll get to that in a sec. The Lexus RX was awarded the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating against 2022 criteria, and it comes with mostly all the stuff you would expect on all grades. So you've got autonomous emergency braking, you've got pedestrian, cyclist, junction detection, lane keeping assistance, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, adaptive cruise control, and a reversing camera on some grades and a surround view camera on others. Now, you're paying a lot of money for this car. A surround view camera, in my opinion, should be standard. This car isn't the easiest to see out of. So really, Lexus should pick up its game and fix that problem, if you ask me. Now, there's 8 airbags fitted, including dual front, front side, front center, driver's knee, and full-length curtain coverage. Lexus offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty in Australia, which is on par for the luxury brands. And look, the brand has a really good reputation when it comes to ownership stuff. So there is an Encore program that you get as standard for 3 years, which includes things like they will pick up or drop off your car when it's due for a service, give you a loan car if you need it. So there's a few little perks that you do get if you buy a Lexus. There is a cap price servicing plan for the first 5 years of ownership, but the services are $695 per visit, which is expensive even for the luxury class. So just keep that in mind. And the service intervals are every 12 months or 15,000 kilometers. Now, there's roadside assist included as well. You see the details on your screen now. Look, I reckon there are a bunch of reasons why the Lexus RX could be the right SUV for you. If you're looking for a luxury large car, then it could be a really good choice. But I don't know whether I could live with the styling personally. I don't really like the look of it, but you tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose this car, one of the alternatives I mentioned, or something completely different that I've forgotten? All right, have you say in the comments, and I love you. Bye.